I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor.
Very, very rocky.
Death by government.
Drain the swamp.
Hello and welcome to another installment of Liberty Nation's Swamponomics videocast. I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor. This week, are Generation Z workers the new millennials? Based on a recent survey, it might be true. Employers are increasingly dissatisfied with Generation Z workers, says the findings from RedBalloon, a quote, non-woke job board. The firm released the results of its March Freedom Economy Index, a survey of roughly 80,000 small business employers. One of the interesting findings of the monthly study was that employers are becoming increasingly frustrated with Generation Z workers. According to the report, a majority of small business owners possess a negative opinion about Generation Zers, with more than two-thirds calling them, quote, the least reliable of all their employees. But that is not all. To help us dive deeper into the findings, please welcome a special guest, Mr. Andrew Crapuchettes, the CEO of RedBalloon. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks for having me, Andrew, and nice to see you.
So one thing I want to address in your in-depth RedBalloon Public Square report is the state of Generation Z workers today. As I noted in the opener, millennials had been the target of scorn for years. Today, it appears to be Generation Z. So based on your findings, is this a case of generational strife between employer and employee, or are there real concerns and issues that employers need to contend with regarding this new generation of workers?
Well, there's a couple things I want to point out. Obviously, a lot of our employers are disappointed with this generation and their ability to just have a grasp of reality of where what the workplace looks like today, and how much work is required to actually succeed in the workplace, right? And so I think it's that grasp of reality that they're struggling with. And right, this is a generation that's grown up on social media. Many of them have gone to college. You've also seen the participation rate for 16 to 19-year-olds. So kind of the very entry of the workplace, of the work culture, those people, the participation rate has gone down from 50% to below 30% in the U.S. economy. So less than 30% of those people are finding their first job at McDonald's or Taco Bell or whatever it is, where they actually learn to look people in the eye and shake their hand. And when you have grown up on social media and actually not had to do hard work in kind of that first job, that first fast food job experience, you come to the workplace with very wildly wrong expectations of what's required. And that's been very frustrating to a lot of the employers that we've interviewed in our Freedom Economy Index. Now, I will give one caveat to that. As I talk to employers, they said, look, as a whole, the generation is a bit of a struggle for us as we're trying to hire good people. But if you find someone in that Generation Z who is a clear-thinking, hardworking conservative, they are the best worker. They understand technology trends. They understand creativity and innovation in the workplace in a way that a lot of the older workers don't understand.
Now, another thing I found interesting in your report was that you noted that a majority of employers say that Generation Z workers are more likely to trigger a workplace lawsuit. So how common is this, and what exactly would they file a lawsuit about?
Well, I'm going to give you a shocking stat here. 75% of businesses in America say that over the last 5 years, they've either had an employment-based lawsuit or they had a threat of an employment-based lawsuit. So 75% of employers all across America have been dealing with lawsuits. And this is kind of an untold story right now in America. We have a very litigious society. And unfortunately, when you're an employer and you spend all your time either dealing with a lawsuit or worried about a lawsuit, it is paralyzing. It is paralyzing in how you hire. It's paralyzing in how you deal with bad employees or employees who are a bunch of whiners. And I've heard from a lot of employers through the Freedom Economy Index as part of RedBalloon. They said, look, we have an employee, everyone walks on eggshells around them, but we know that if we start the process of letting them go, it is going to be more heartache than we can even imagine. And so they've been spending months and months building documentation on an employee that really, in a functioning economy, that person should have just been gone right away. And when you have a sense of entitlement, you constantly think that someone is doing something illegal to you, whether it's discrimination, whether it's not giving you a fair shot at work, whatever it is. And so you're going to think, oh, instead of just covering it in love or not worrying about it, I'm going to bring a lawsuit because I'm going to make a lot of money. And I've been on social media where all my friends evidently make a lot of money through lawsuits. So that's what I'm going to do to my current employer. And it's really a sad state of affairs. And they believe that that's normal. And so they're coming into the workplace kind of with this expectation that if I'm not treated the way that I think I should be treated, or if I am discriminated in my own mind, in the workplace, I'm just going to bring a lawsuit. I'm not just going to lose my job. And that's very frustrating to employers, obviously, because then they can't hire people quickly, fire people quickly, which is what you need to do in capitalism. And so, yes, this is a top concern for our employers. And that's part of the reason RedBalloon is thriving right now, because if you're an employer, you come to RedBalloon, you're not going to have to worry about those lawsuits. We're going to take care of getting you good people that aren't going to do that to you.
Actually, this might lead to my next question here. More baby boomers are retiring. The number of job openings, which has been around 8 million for nearly 2 years, suggests a worker shortage. So how exactly can employers navigate through this labor market while also trying to hire, perhaps for lack of a better term, more stable Generation Z workers?
Yeah, my encouragement to people is don't shortcut the hiring process. A lot of, especially small businesses, right? They're always overwhelmed with work. They're in a spot where they don't have any capacity to think about putting the time and effort into a good hiring process. And so as a consequence, they are like sweating bullets to just hire someone who will do this work. And so they often will just make a desperation hire. I just need to hire someone who will fog up a mirror if you put it under their nose. But you're going to see at least $15,000 of cost if you hire the wrong person. And so my encouragement is you need to put the time and effort into a hiring process and not shortcut it. And obviously, RedBalloon, we have a whole process that we run through for employers, and we give it to any employer who wants to see how do you do interviewing correctly, how do you avoid a lawsuit, how do you find good people, because it is so important for America to have employers who can find folks who are just going to work and not destroy their business.
In our next segment, we discuss an interesting new trend forming in the marketplace: employers choosing to avoid hiring workers with a college or university degree and actively hiring employees that do not share the same post-secondary credentials. I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor.
Very, very rocky.
Death by government.
Drain the swamp.